In the silent dark of space, a star has been whispering secrets for decades. Strange flickers in its light, mysterious radio signals, clues ignored for generations. The impossible has happened. Scientists have uncovered a hidden super-Earth, a world with water, an atmosphere, and conditions eerily like our own. A cosmic mirror of Earth, an alien Earth hiding in plain sight. This discovery will rewrite everything we thought we knew about the universe, and it may just change the future of humanity. In the silent dark of space, a secret giant stirs. A distant star flickers in a way that sends chills down the spine. It feels like the calm just before a storm of discovery. What is hiding in the cosmic shadows beyond our world? What if the whispers of old radio signals and patterns in starlight were not random? Imagine an unbelievable possibility. An unbelievable habitable super-Earth discovery that scientists never expected. Suddenly, our quiet sky feels alive, mixing danger with exhilaration. The idea seems straight out of science fiction. Could a new Earth be out there? Some are already calling it an alien Earth, a mirror of our home hiding in plain sight in the universe. Scientists and dreamers are asking, what if an Earth-like ocean spun somewhere among the stars, waiting for our chance to see it? It is a deeply human longing. The very thought is breathtaking, like finding a message in a bottle from across the cosmic gulf. And what scientists found will change everything we thought we knew. On a remote observatory nestled high in the mountains, the night air was crisp and still. The sky was a tapestry of stars stretching endlessly in all directions. Below, a valley slept under a blanket of quiet darkness, broken only by the distant chirping of a lone night bird and the hum of instruments. The ground underfoot was hard and cold, and the scent of metal and electronics mingled with the earth. In this vast silence, even the faintest sound seemed like a shout of destiny. Bright lights glowed softly from inside the observatory's dome. Inside, technicians and astronomers moved with hushed intensity. Giant telescopes turned slowly toward the heavens, catching every photon that traveled from those faraway suns. Their screens shimmered with data, graphs, and images of distant worlds. Yet outside, the moon cast a gentle glow on the snow-dusted roofs, and the wind whispered through the trees as if sharing a secret. On the mountaintop, time itself felt suspended. In the control room, the hum of the cooling system was as constant and muted as breathing. A slender beam of laser light cut across the darkness, calibrating instruments with precision. A poster on the wall showed an artistic rendering of Jupiter's moons, a reminder of similar worlds we had found before. But tonight, attention was on a sun-like star far beyond. One of the astronomers, a vigilant operator in a bright red parka, rubbed his hands together against the chill. He adjusted the focus on one monitor and took a slow sip of coffee. Across the table, another researcher clicked steadily through a series of data charts. Their voices were barely above a whisper. Even if it is there, we might not be able to see it, one murmured. Her colleague replied, we have cameras and sensors trained on this star 24 hours a day. If anything moves, we will know it. Outside the observatory dome, the night sky was pristine. The Milky Way arced in luminous bands, and constellations wheeled slowly overhead. The same star they tracked now was bathed in moonlight, its dull gold color muted in the sky. To the naked eye it was just another point of light, but to their instruments it was an entire system begging questions. A distant train whistle from the valley below drifted up, connecting this remote outpost to the world far away. Somewhere out there, children might be dreaming of worlds like these. Satellites drifted silently overhead, tracking their own courses while feeding back whisper-thin signals. The astronomers watched their screens, each pixel representing a moment in deep space. On one display, spectral lines pulsed and scrolled. A data analyst leaned forward. He detected a tiny irregularity in the spectrum, something the raw eye would never catch. His finger froze over the trackpad as he reran the signal processing. Each tick of the clock in the quiet room matched the slow pulse of his heartbeat. The night wore on. The team was seasoned. They had sat through countless nights just like this. Yet there was always something magical about it. Even now, they felt on edge with anticipation. The legend of this star had grown over years. They exchanged looks across the table, silent communication passing between them like static. Something was about to change. They all felt it, even if the star itself betrayed nothing more than steady light. Nothing looked out of the ordinary. The star they were watching crossed the sky, steady and unremarkable. Just one more sun in the galaxy. Outside, the forest was dark and still as the scientists checked and rechecked their observations. The temperature inside was cool from the machines, but outside it was near freezing, and the faint fog of breath from the astronomers' mouths vanished in an instant. The telescope's motors sighed softly as they tracked the star across the sky. It was all perfectly normal, or so they thought. But just when the world thought it understood this place. For years, the star had played a teasing game with its watchers. Decades of data held tantalizing hints. A faint dimming here, an unexplained radio pulse there. One morning, an old graph in an observatory logbook showed a barely detectable dip in starlight, a whisper of a planet. But the data had been noisy, and at the time it was brushed off as a glitch. A veteran astronomer once shrugged. We saw something, but could not hold on to it. Years of careful observation and surveys had uncovered such subtle hints before, only for them to vanish on closer inspection. What if the star was trying to reveal itself but needed the right listener? Legends and lore crept into this pursuit as well. Long before modern telescopes, skygazers spoke of a distant world like our own. Ancient star charts nicknamed that sun-like star twin or doppelganger, a faint allusion to an imagined companion Earth. Even now, these stories lingered in hushed conversation over coffee among scientists. Surveys from planet-hunting telescopes had sometimes flagged the star for follow-up. Every mission moved on without confirming anything. Once a junior researcher joked that the cosmos was playing hide and seek with them, and that only deepened the sense of destiny surrounding that distant light. The new clues echoed patterns long forgotten. Decades earlier, an amateur astronomer in a nearby town had once plotted that star's light curve by hand on graph paper. He scribbled in the margin that the data were strange, but died before science could follow up. His dusty notes were rediscovered just weeks ago by a grad student, who smiled in disbelief. The faint dip he had marked in 2005 lined up almost exactly with the period they were observing now. In the early 21st century, several teams of skywatchers had flagged the star as interesting. Space agency reports had entries marked, "Candidate for Exoplanet." Once, infrared data showed a mild warm glow from the star at an odd interval, prompting a rushed press release that was quickly withdrawn when nothing followed. At a conference in 2010, one scientist joked about the star's nickname. Staff had secretly started calling it Whispering Star after so many aborted leads. But the joke carried an edge of truth. Local folklore even picked up on it. On the mountain just below the observatory, some villagers told stories of a distant twin of Earth. They called it the Mirror Star or Shadow World, saying that on moonless nights you could feel its reflection in the river. Elders spoke of those tales with amusement. Science had no time for myths. Yet every so often in quiet villages, a grandparent would glance at the bright star and quietly say, "It has always watched us back." When the scientists dove into old survey data, they found a curious pattern. In 2023, a space telescope had recorded 3 tiny dips when the star aligned behind the sun from Earth's view. That discovery was buried in raw data, unnoticed for years. It was now clear those dips corresponded exactly with the transit seen now. It was as if the star had been trying to tell us something, whispering through the noise of the cosmos, for many years. One by one, these forgotten whispers turned into clues. A senior astronomer recalled publishing a dry bulletin last year about irregular motion in the star spectrum but without any conclusion. Colleagues had nodded and moved on. Today, looking back, those bulletins read like diary entries of a detective closing in on the truth. Each note a fingerprint of an unseen world. Every piece began to fit. A theoretical physicist in the group had once raised an eyebrow at an overlapping data point in a chart. dismissing it as a calibration error. Now he revisited that chart. The data point was an almost identical match to the first transit they had measured. Engineers who once argued about shutting down the telescope after a malfunction now realized that the malfunction happened right when the star dimmed. Each neglected clue whispered the same story. The planet had been hiding in plain sight all along. This web of past hints created an eerie pattern. It was as though an ancient force had scattered breadcrumbs across time. If someone had told the team 12 months ago that every oddity ever logged about the star would someday become evidence for a world, they might have laughed. But now the pattern was undeniable. Old sky survey maps, museum archives of observation reports, even grainy photographs of the night sky, all pointed to one reality. The star had a history of whispering secrets long before this moment. It was a startling revelation, how history looped back on itself. That night, as they connected past anomalies to the present discovery, the scientists felt a strange kinship with every observer who had looked up at that star before them. In a sense, all their work had been leading to this. The past was no longer separate. It was part of the discovery itself. With that realization, they braced for what was to come next. Piece by piece, the clues began to form a pattern. For months, the scientists followed the breadcrumb trail left by the star. Every night added nuance. New dip in brightness, a spike in radiation, a barely there waver. The data poured in steadily, bit by bit. Each clue alone was small and easily ignored, but together they formed a map. It was like listening for a faint heartbeat in a crowded room. As spring turned to summer, global observatories synchronized their gaze. Radio dishes in the desert, optical scopes on snow-capped peaks, and space telescopes all targeted that unassuming star. In Hawaii, a radio astronomer calibrated his array to monitor faint pulses in coordination with colleagues in Spain adjusting an infrared detector. Across Earth, instruments recorded slight periodic changes. Tiny dips that kept time with a rhythmic wobble in the star's light, as if a silent metronome were ticking somewhere out there. Then came a breakthrough moment. A young astronomer, eyes red from late hours, saw the same dimming mark itself repeatedly in both optical and radio data. On the schedule of a worldwide network, a transit had been predicted and observed perfectly. Seeing it happen twice, she could not suppress a smile. "This is it," she said quietly. Others gathered around the screens. The star's light dimmed at the exact interval they expected if a planet orbiting every 200 days was passing by. The excitement only grew. Spectrographs locked on the star's light and revealed something extraordinary. Signatures that hinted at water vapor and maybe even oxygen in the hidden planet's atmosphere. An astrophysicist quietly checked the math and raised an eyebrow. "These ratios, they suggest a temperate world," he murmured, hardly believing his own words. To a geologist by training, the numbers looked like the conditions for liquid water to exist on that distant surface. In hushed tones, they compared the data to Earth's. Atmosphere thick enough to hold water, star bright enough to warm the surface, everything aligned for habitability. Meanwhile, back on Earth, news of each small confirmation spread quickly. Amateur stargazers were checking online bulletins, and forums buzzed with speculation. In a university astronomy lab, students updated their plots in real time. Even families at home turned their telescopes skyward, hoping to catch a glimpse or hear a report. The entire planet seemed to hold its breath, connected by one question: was this finally an Earth-like world? Analogy hit home. This was no ordinary exoplanet hunt. It was like solving a giant jigsaw puzzle. One scientist said, "Every clue is a piece, and we just put them together." Another likened it to decoding a secret message in the stars. A planetary scientist joked that they had become cosmic codebreakers, using math instead of spy tools. The number of pieces needed to reveal the picture was finally collapsing. With each match, the image of the hidden world came into sharper focus. By midsummer, the final pieces clicked. All independent measurements, transit timings, spectral analyses, orbital dynamics, converged. The team triple-checked. Nothing else could fit the bill. One of the lead astronomers held up printouts and said, "It cannot be anything else now. We have a planet." It was no accident. The readings lined up perfectly with the hypothesis. They looked at one another in awe. realizing that their exhaustive search had paid off. Calls were made around the globe. The control room crackled with excitement. Energy was palpable. Outside the observatory, the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, but the scientists did not see it yet. They spoke quietly but urgently, preparing for what this meant. Satellite dishes were repointed, notes scribbled, cameras flashed as if documenting a sacred moment. The scattered clues of the past, the months of diligent work, the amateurs' hopes all had led here, to a unified, chilling possibility, a habitable world just beyond sight. With every clue uncovered, the real breakthrough was within reach. Then came the moment that changed the entire story. In the hushed silence of the dawn, the team gathered to review the final evidence. On rows of monitors, a vivid simulation took shape. A pale blue-green sphere hovered against the void, ringed by wisps of cloud. It was a computer-generated image, of course, but its details were drawn from real data. The telltale dips in starlight and faint spectral lines gave rise to an entire portrait. Engineers in the room held their breath as each feature appeared. Swirling white bands, a hint of continents, Earth's blue and white palette, together illustrating life-friendly conditions. The simulation faded on the screen. The planet's face was set for the world to see. All the hard numbers were now visual. The planet emerged in the models as something astonishingly Earth-like. It orbited its sun every 200 days at roughly the right distance for liquid water to remain on a rocky surface. Its mass and size, calculated precisely from the wobble measurements and transit dimming, indicated a gravity only slightly stronger than Earth's. The atmosphere lines suggested the presence of water vapor and possibly oxygen. Graphs showed the star's brightness matched what such a planet would receive, a comfortable balance of warmth, given the planet's thicker sky. A planetary scientist leaned forward, voice trembling with awe. "This is the closest thing we have ever found to Earth out there," she said softly. A geochemist turned pale as she double-checked the climate models on the screen and added, "If this is real, then we are staring at a mirror of our own world, under a different sky." Similes came easily. One remarked that the planet was a pale blue dot, like ours, only distant. Another called it a cosmic sibling. Yet even in their wonder, they were careful. As one put it, all these indications could allow life, but do not prove it exists. The discovery was monumental, and the team knew it. Inside the command center, chatter broke into excited speculation. Outside, the sun rose over the mountain, but the world would not know for hours. By midday, news feeds were buzzing. Headlines called it Earth's twin found, while scientists carefully clarified it was the most Earth-like planet yet discovered. Conservative voices were quick to emphasize caution. "We have found a planet that could be habitable, not confirmed life," said an astrophysicist on a live broadcast. But even that hope is exhilarating. The revelation was as public as it was private. The news release went out, and soon the internet was flooded with stories and images. Social media was alight with wonder. Amateur illustrators posted concept art of the new world. Musicians wrote songs imagining its sunrise. Across the globe, people looked up at the night sky as if seeing it anew. Broadcasters stressed that the key word was habitable, meaning it had the right temperature and materials, not that aliens were waving back just yet. As one astronomer put it, "We have never seen anything so favorable, but the universe can still surprise us." In that moment of revelation, the wonder of space was on full display. Yet beneath it, the scientists felt a calm pride. They knew that what they saw might be the catalyst for even greater exploration. It was beautiful and somewhat humbling, a perfect blend of science and mystery, and, unspoken yet clear to all of them, this was only the beginning of the questions they would ask. They exhaled together, ready for the next phase of discovery, even as outside the story was just beginning to spread. However, what came next defied every expectation. The world below reacted as if a beacon had lit up in the sky. News outlets buzzed, townsfolk pointed skyward, and families discussed the find around dinner tables. Scientists celebrated but also refocused on the hard work ahead. Research budgets were shifted, new telescope time was scheduled, and proposals poured in to study the planet further. Institutions held urgent meetings to design missions that could analyze the distant atmosphere. Even routine classes on astronomy took on new excitement, as students realized that the universe held another world with oceans. Across continents, people marveled at the implications. For everyday life on Earth, nothing physical changed in an instant. The sun still rose and set, oceans still ebbed, and seasons still turned. But the discovery had changed people. Farmers in one field and city dwellers in another now felt connected by a shared wonder. Environmentalists held up the new planet as a reminder that blue planets might be rare and precious, a hopeful symbol for conservation. Skeptics and cynics were still busy with daily worries, but even they could not deny the sense of magic in the moment. Governments and agencies worldwide began drafting agendas. Radio astronomers debated broadcasting a message, while others argued for silence. Diplomatic channels quietly discussed the idea that we might not be alone, even if thousands of light years separated us. Would an intelligent signal from that star ever reach us? Could someone already be listening for us there? Security experts and ethicists held their first meetings on contact protocols. They asked, could this distant world pose any danger to Earth? The answer seemed to be no, at least for now. But it reminded everyone that our curiosity about the cosmos is undimmed. Space industry giants and startups took note immediately. A new space telescope was proposed to study this system in detail, drawing on the excitement. Engineers sketched out instruments that might directly image the planet's surface, or even sample its light for chemical clues. Meanwhile, science fiction writers and futurists were already planning voyages in their novels. One engineer joked that they might start building warp drives over coffee. However, everyone knew that practical travel to a planet 1,000 light-years away was not on the immediate horizon, but the dream of someday reaching it had begun. Astrobiologists felt vindicated. Grants poured in to study similar sun-like stars and refine life detection techniques. Entire conferences were rescheduled to make room for this planet at the center of discussions. Many research papers speculated wildly. What would life do in a world like this? Others were cautious. We must first confirm the climate and surface before we name the oceans. Yet deep down they dared to hope. One said, this find suggests our galaxy may harbor many more habitable worlds. We are witnessing the dawn of a new age of discovery. Religious and philosophical thinkers joined the conversation. Sermons mentioned the new planet as evidence of the vastness of creation, or simply a reminder that the universe is bigger than our daily concerns. Some spiritual leaders spoke of hope and connection between worlds, while others warned against arrogance. A humble note became common. However different or alike that distant world might be, it reminded us of our own fragility and unity. As a writer put it, at night, we all share that sky. One of those points of light is now a neighbor we yearn to know. Writers, artists, and dreamers found inspiration everywhere. Paintings of the new Earth 2.0 sprouted on social media. Poets wrote about longing and the courage to reach outward. Video game designers created planet-side simulations. Museums and schools added exhibits on the discovery. People everywhere asked, what would its rivers be like? Its mountains? Its flora and fauna? The questions became a collective daydream, fueling imaginations. As one philosopher observed, for the first time, thinking about life elsewhere doesn't feel like science fiction. It feels inevitable.